10 years ago. In fact, our first round Series A was closed in 2002 with Temasek Capital when they still existed. And of course, along the way, we applied for grants, and we were actually turned down once because Movie is not more than 50% held by Singapore, by a Singaporean, right? But I think any one of you here who have ever raised VC money will know that the shares that the VC holds are usually kept in a BVI vehicle. So our owners, our investors, being Temasek Capital, you can't get more Singapore than that. But legally, it's a BVI company that holds the shares that Temasek Capital put money in, and we were denied that grant, and we were like, it was a huge WT for us. But and that was after like 3 months of a lot of paperwork. And I fed back to the agency involved because I think for a smaller startup, it would have killed the company. I mean, luckily, we are 50%. I have a finance and admin department, and they spend 3 months filling up forms and getting records ready. So that's just one example. But I actually do have a question. How likely do you see the government being able to take even more radical steps to encourage foreign talent? I know it's been a huge sticking point, and at Movie, half of our employees come from 15 different countries. We've been able to hire people from Microsoft in Redmond to move to Singapore to work for Movie. But I was very disappointed that with the new economic restructuring committee recommendations that yet again we are trying to step on two boats. We are encouraging 5,000 startups in Singapore, let 1,000 flowers bloom, and at the same time we are encouraging the Googles and the LinkedIns of the world to come to Singapore and set up shop and give them 5-year tax breaks and say, hey, come in and create 200 jobs. The problem is there are no 200 jobs. There are no 200 engineers for Google to hire. And so what happens? They hire from people like us who are still not that able to pay a Google salary. We are not quite startup, not quite SME, definitely not MNC. And I think, end of the day, being Singaporean, I serve national service, so I know once you're 30 plus years old, you're still working in a startup and you're kind of underpaid, at some point, if somebody comes and double your salary, you're like, yeah, I've got 2 parents, I'm the only son. Okay, it's a tough choice, right? At some points you have bills to pay, you want to buy your condo and your Toyota Corolla, and you have parents. So I think that's a constant struggle for us on the ground. It would be better if you tell the Googlers, you come in, bring 200 of your own guys, and let us poach from them. And they can poach our guys, and then you get your ecosystem. Right now, you're actually getting, they are actually, I think, emptying out a very thin vessel. I think, let them come in with their 200 Googlers, and then we'll compete for the same talent. Yeah, then I think we really get our ecosystem. Not to just get 2 founders in to start up, because they can't hire anybody. Everybody wants to be a founder now. It's kind of cool to be an entrepreneur. But then who else is going to work for people like me?
Well, I'm certainly very heartened by your comment that young people now feel that it's cool to be an entrepreneur, to start your own company. Well, actually, it is something which, in a sense, we've been trying to work for many years in order to get people to get out of their comfort zone and try new things, start their own companies. But I get your point that if we just allow big companies to come in like Google or Apple or something, and with a limited supply of people here, obviously they'll either have to bring in foreigners or they poach from the existing pool. And that's not only the case for startups, it's a case for all industries like banking and so on. I think I made a valid point where the agencies, ministries for MTR, EDB, who are responsible for bringing foreign investment here, they should keep in mind on the limited pool of labor which is available. Otherwise, you'll be chasing each other. Salaries will be pushed up, and what could have been a viable venture could turn otherwise. I remember one year when I was Minister of Trade and Industry between I think 81 to 84. Business was very good. A lot of investments were coming in. The problem was also skilled labor. So in fact, I had a serious petition from a number of companies in Singapore who says that, please ask EDB for 1 year, don't promote Singapore. So you don't have enough people there. New companies come in, they poach from us, they drive up salaries, and what was a viable company becomes non-viable. There's always going to be a tension there. What we have tried in Singapore, of course, is to increase the supply, and I'm a very strong supporter of encouraging our higher education sector, not only universities, all the polytechnics and IT, give our own people every chance to get the training, the skills to actually fill these jobs. But Singapore is a small country. The government has done a lot of work in order to make Singapore one of the easiest and best places to do business, and that's why we are getting all this foreign investment. But they also accentuate the labor situation there. I think that we have got to look at this seriously, because cost is a very big problem for most companies today. And if we keep on going like this, Singapore is already being ranked, I think, as one of the highest cost countries in the world to do business. To some extent, you can overcome it by increasing productivity and moving into higher value added, more technology intensive industries, but there is a limit to how much you can do that. So we take your point, but if you look at it in a broader context and perspective, it's much better to be in this situation than to be another situation when there's lots of labor and no jobs, like Spain, which has, I believe, 15 to 20% unemployment, and even in the US there is almost 10% employment. And now I see that it's not only people from the region, but also Americans and people from Europe coming to Asia and to Singapore in order to get jobs. There will always be problems. You can never have the ideal environment, but where there are issues, if you're brought up to the right agencies, I think that we can always see how we can tweak the system, but it's a continuous struggle.
It's a good problem, and that's why I moved to Silicon Valley to push their nice plan.
Well done.
Okay,
That's a creative solution.